He was my boss, my mentor, almost a brother for 7 years. He took out loans to pay our wages, built a crew of loyal men, and taught me everything he knew. Then, with the blink of an eye, he betrayed me. He left me crippled, cashless, and betrayed, pocketing money meant for my recovery. But he didn't know I was a veteran, forged in fire, with years of meticulous records. He thought he could outsmart me, bleed me dry, and escape to his dream mansion. He was wrong. And by the time the authorities were done, that dream mansion was gone, and he was back in the sardine can he'd once called home, likely to rot for the rest of his treacherous life. If you've ever poured your heart and soul into a job, only to be utterly betrayed by someone you trusted, then hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video, and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying moment of justice you've ever witnessed when a betrayer got their due? This isn't just a story about money. It's about breaking a man who broke his word. Let's dive in. Where to begin, huh? I suppose I should start at the beginning of my adult life. I was an educated computer tech, graduating right on the cusp of the 2008 financial crisis. Before the crash, tech was hailed as the vocation of the future. Companies flocked to our school, offering scholarships, promising jobs if we signed agreements. After the crash? Those promises were the first things cut. My dreams of college shattered. I had to find work. It was easier said than done. My late 20s were a brutal roller coaster of dead-end jobs. I'd work, save up a bit of cash, then get laid off as a redundancy, forcing me to burn through those savings just to survive while hunting for the next thankless gig. Years went by, tech evolved, and I couldn't afford the classes to keep up. In my late 20s, I snapped. I'd had enough. I needed a career change. I decided to follow in my late father's footsteps and become a welder. As if fate intervened, a week before I even made the inquiry, a state-sponsored program emerged, allowing me to become one for free. After completing the welding courses, I was offered a job as a field welder almost immediately, a refreshing change from the months of job hunting I was used to. This is where the subject of our story enters. I'll call him Rat Boss, or RB for short. RB ran a small field welding business with a crew of half a dozen men, traveling all over Europe. He promised to take me in, show me the ropes, teach me real welding, none of that schoolyard horses ***T. And for the first 6 years? It was amazing. Yes, it was hard work, dawn till dusk, 7 days a week, sometimes gone from home for over a month. But the travels, the adventure, the camaraderie. We started as strangers and became like brothers, sticking together through thick and thin. I genuinely miss those days. And RB, back then, was the kind of boss who put all others to shame. I remember one time, he took out a high-interest loan just to pay us our wages because an emergency expense had drained his bank account 2 weeks before a client payment was due. He chose debt over asking us to hang in there. That's the man I knew. That's the man I trusted. But everything changed by year 7. Most of the core crew, missing their families too much, had left. So had RB. He set me up as foreman, while he found work back home, sending me people he interviewed as I needed them. It didn't start off badly. Several jobs were completed successfully. But the new people RB sent? They weren't the same. They were short-term workers, there to make a quick buck, settle debts, or gain experience. Then the pandemic struck, forcing me to sit out a period of unemployment. It wasn't a big deal for me. I had years of cash reserves, a habit from my teen years. But what came after is when things started to go seriously wrong. No decent worker wanted to travel abroad anymore. The people RB sent me were, frankly, those proverbially fished out of the sewers, drunkards, thieves, drug addicts, destitutes. People with nothing to lose and no will to do a good job. It all went downhill fast. As foreman, I ensured the job got done and signed off, so bills would be sent and wages paid. But outside of work, there were constant incidents, unique to this demographic. To top it all off, wages started coming late, travel costs weren't being refunded, and RB started doing some creative accounting with everyone's net and gross wages. It all came to a boiling point at 3 a.m. on the night I was supposed to drive the crew back home. The client called. One of the guys had been arrested for drunken disorderly conduct. No ID, just his workplace card, so they called our client, who called me. I ate a lot of ***T that day, picking up that degenerate. When I finally got home, I had a long, hard sit-down with Rat Boss. I told him I was done with the Bulls ***T and it was time to settle accounts. He half-heartedly apologized, admitting he was having problems with his wife, who co-ran the business and was fighting him over money. At that point, he owed me around a year's worth of travel expenses. Considering I traveled at least 2,000 miles monthly, that was a substantial sum. He apologetically asked me to wait on the money, claiming his wife was cock-blocking any major expenditures. He also asked me to stay on for a few months, on minimum wage, just until he could assemble a decent crew. Idiot that I was, I accepted. There was no reason not to trust him, we'd known each other for 7 years. I didn't think it unreasonable to give him time. But I had one condition: I needed half the money he owed me by the end of September. I had crucial work being done on my house. He said that wouldn't be a problem, so far in advance. I said okay, we had a deal, but my gut churned with suspicion. A couple of months passed. I worked for RB locally, on minimum wage. But even that wage started coming in late. My hackles were raised. I worried I'd have to postpone the housework, which would be a disaster. Craftsmen were so hard to find, you paid a deposit just to prove you were serious. In early September, the month his partial debt repayment was due, I confronted him again. He assured me paying half the travel costs wouldn't be a problem, that he had the cash ready. As we parted ways, he gave me the fakest smile I'd ever seen. I stared him down, giving him a look that screamed, "I'm not fooling around anymore." His fake smile vanished. I said goodbye, got in my car, and drove home. That weekend, RB sent me a vague message about having a crew lined up and going abroad to meet a potential customer, to get his foot back into the fieldwork door. Alarm bells instantly screamed. He's going to avoid the payment due date. He's going to screw me over. He was going to screw me over. Bastard. After everything we'd been through. At that point, I decided, if the money didn't arrive on the due date, a 30-day resignation notice would be waiting for him when he returned, filed on the exact day he was supposed to pay. But when something has you this riled up, like RB's probable betrayal, it's hard to focus. I slipped on a ramp. Not a sprain, not a torn ligament, I destroyed my ankle. This was a week before his debt payment was due. Emergency surgery, a minimum of 2 weeks in the hospital, and 6 months unable to put proper weight on my foot. What do you think happened to the money he promised? It didn't come. Big surprise. Not only that, even my minimum wage didn't get wired that month. It gets worse. While I was heavily medicated in the hospital, the work on my house was completed. My mother, who had emergency access to my accounts, used my savings to pay for the work instead of canceling, leaving me with very little money. She told me not to worry. I'd still get sick leave. I wasn't so sure. The thing about sick leave in my country, for work-related injuries with a recovery longer than a month, the employer only pays the first month. The rest is government-funded. The employer only pays Social Security and taxes, and the government wires the sick leave money to the employer, who then forwards it to the employee. Which, of course, didn't happen. I didn't receive a single cent from him since. So there I was, broken, crippled, bedridden, and unable to work. It got worse. I ran out of money just as I had the last installment of an outstanding debt to pay. Banks were calling weekly. I had to cash in an investment, one that would have yielded me modest passive income for the rest of my life, just to pay off the debt and subsist while I recovered. My anger transformed into a cold, hard resolve for revenge. He lied, he hid, he failed to pay, he stole money meant for me from the government. He would cook in the fires of hell for what he'd done. Before I tell you what I did, a little background on Rat Boss. He lived in a tiny apartment in our capital city with his wife and 2 children. It was so small they practically climbed over each other. But he had a dream. He'd bought a plot of land and was slowly building a massive house. So big, one room would be larger than his old apartment. Over 7 years, brick by brick, he built it. When we last spoke, he was perhaps 6 months from moving in. His dream. My role as foreman meant a lot of paperwork, every decision, every purchase, every dirty little secret hidden in the numbers. And I had it all. It was simply a matter of forwarding it to the appropriate authorities. As soon as I could walk, more like drag my recovering foot, fueled by hardcore painkillers, I went out and turned him in to every government agency that had a shot at him. The biggest hit came from the Labor Inspectorate. As the caseworker rummaged through the evidence, she mumbled, wide-eyed, something like, "My God, he broke half the labor laws in our country. I live in what some call a second-world country. Our government is slow and inefficient, but it does act when properly prompted." And when it finally acted on Rat Boss, his fall was like being hit in the face by the meteor that killed the dinosaurs. His accounts were frozen. He was barred from traveling abroad. His business licenses were suspended, and he was required to dismiss all his current employees with severance, money he didn't have. He filed for bankruptcy soon after. He was required to sell the house he'd dreamed about his entire life to settle the fines. He's stuck now, like I was, but far worse. Trapped in that sardine can apartment, unable to work, unable to support his family, unable to pay bills until the government's legal proceedings finally conclude. For what he did to me, I was able to stay afloat. But for what I did to him? He is done. Broken. Reduced to utter destitution. He called me when the government's gavel hit his face. I'll spare you the exact dialogue, but he screamed how I could do this, hurling curses. I calmly called him out for lying to me after 7 years, for leaving me penniless in a hospital, and called him a rat who betrayed a friend. I told him never to call me again, as we were in a legal dispute, and all communication should go through the Labor Inspectorate. Then, I hung up. I made a claim on his bankruptcy proceedings. By the time he paid all the fines, all I could claim was a single month's worth of sick leave. No travel costs, nothing else. But it was okay. I could live with that, knowing he got hit 30 times over for the grievance he inflicted on me. No eye for an eye, no tooth for a tooth. The whole face for an eye. The whole head for a tooth. I stand, both literally and figuratively. But Rat Boss is buried so deep in the dirt that where he used to dream of his big house, he now dreams of just crawling back to rock bottom to start over again. This wasn't just revenge, it was a brutal lesson in accountability. It taught me that while life can throw crippling blows, strength isn't just physical. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon is patience, meticulous record-keeping, and knowing exactly where to unleash the truth. The universe truly does come through sometimes, especially if you give it a little nudge. Have you ever had to fight for what's right against someone who betrayed your trust? Share your stories of justice in the comments below. If this tale of an epic takedown resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe for more true stories of triumph over betrayal, and share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that karma always comes calling.